Welcome to the Catch Some Soulshine podcast. I'm your host, Renee Bova, and I am joined today by Julia Christine. She is a breathwork coach, but so much more. She really will help people find their way back to them. And that's really her access is using the breath work. However, she's done huge shifts in her own life of healing and expanding because she's realized the importance of self-care, self-work. And today we're going to talk about a lot of those things. She's creative. She's been involved in the arts in various forms, such as music and performing. But I'm going to let her start to tell you a little bit about herself, a little bit about her podcast, which it's really unique because you can listen to just little bits and pieces to get your day going, which is so needed in this fast-paced world. All right, so take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is so
I'm
fun.
so glad to have you.
Oh my gosh.
This whole podcast is about, awakening brilliance through life's darkest moments, right?
Mhm,
And I have found in talking to several people that those of us that have had the darkest moments
mhm,
and made our passage through those times
mhm.
are the ones that are able to shine the brightest.
Yeah. You know, I hate that little saying about the whole like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or like you're only going to be given something you're strong enough to get through. Um, because I feel like it's just so cliche and passive. But I think that when you are in those moments, and like I told you, like it's not just those moments are important to my life. Like I specifically said to you, I am alive today because of my darkest moment, and it's not because I got through it. It's because the learning that has happened since that darkest moment like has been so massive and impactful, and I'm actually grateful for that moment and for those moments and for those times because they made me who I am today. And so when we can kind of I always talk about taking a 50,000-foot view and just step back a minute and really look at what is going on or what happened or where that came from. I am so grateful to that girl who was so broken because she kept going. She did it in a very toxic way, but she did it. She chose to keep going for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? I didn't choose not to end my life because I wanted my life. I chose to not end my life because I knew it would absolutely kill the people around me that I love so much. And so I did it for them, which is really twisted. You know what I mean? It's
I
that big
think
people
that's
pleaser
so
coming through in the most.
so powerful
Yeah.
because I work in the recovery community,
Hmm.
and one of the sayings is "fake it until you make it."
Right.
And at first I was like, "That's so stupid, fake it
Right.
till you make it." But I remember going to recovery meetings after Brad had
Hmm.
passed away, and how awful it felt to sit there and how painful it was. I thought, I don't even want to come here anymore
Right.
because all I could think about at that time was why them and why not him? Why
Right.
them? Why not him? But somebody came up to me. He said, Dawn, I know this is hard. I know you don't want to be
Hmm.
here. Just keep coming. Fake it until you make it.
Right. And I believe that that person was given that message for you because it is
Mhm,
absolutely what you needed in that moment. And I believe that that is
mhm.
how life happens, is the
Yeah.
people, things happen exactly as they are supposed to in your life. Fake it till you make it doesn't mean put a plastic smile on your face and pretend it doesn't exist. That's not what we're talking
Right.
about. That's enter toxic positivity. What we're talking about is keep going. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just keep.
Keep
You don't have to be
plowing
happy
through
about
that
it.
darkness. Yeah.
Trust me, I did not want to start my program. I did not want to start this transformation. I didn't care about myself. Why would I want to improve myself? I hated myself. I didn't want to be here anymore. Why would I want to keep going? Why would I want better? I don't want anything.
Yeah.
But every day I did it. And here's the thing about faking it to making it and doing that. Now I realize it's a little bit different than what you're talking about, but I totally believe that it's what got you through that. And that is that every time we show up, just this little tiny bit much for
Mhm.
ourselves, we prove to ourselves that we can. And then that means the next day we can again. And the next day we can again. But not only are we proving that, we're also proving I can trust myself. I told myself I was going to do this and I showed up even though I do not want to be here.
Mhm.
I'm here. And I told myself I would be. And all of a sudden, it starts to feel a little bit better because you start to have faith in yourself again and you start to have that trust in yourself. Confidence doesn't come from losing a whole bunch of weight. Confidence comes from showing up for yourself every day, proving to yourself that you care about yourself enough to do that. And so then you start to have that trust in yourself. And for me, I'd never had that before.
Yeah, it kind of goes with that saying, just keep going
Yeah.
and try and enjoy the journey every
One
step of the way.
step at a time. Exactly.
So we
Mhm.
were talking earlier before we started recording about these little pet portraits that I'm doing. I could go into this one of two ways. Well, I'm going to sell a lot of pet portraits.
Yeah.
Or I can go into it as I really don't care how many pet portraits I sell. I'm going to learn how to paint pet portraits and I'm going to enjoy it because I really do love animals and they love me more than
Mm-hmm.
I love them, I think. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I go into somebody's house and I'm like, I used to say, I'm not a cat person. And these cats would flock to me.
That's so true. People who don't like cats, cats love those people.
Guess
Like,
what? I have a cat now. I'm like, I'm a
cats are
dog
great
person. I
companions.
like dogs. Now I have a cat. Oh, well. But I think changing that perspective just slightly
Yeah.
to enjoying the journey, enjoying every step of the way.
Yeah.
And I think like you talked about your breath work is like a point of entry.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great description of it
Mm-hmm.
because it's really like the tip of the iceberg.
It is. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy to me. The more I talk about it, the more I understand it, even for myself. And it's
Mhm.
like, and there was a time last year where I got really pulled away from my own practices and I felt so disconnected. Like, what is going on? How come how come I can't find my feet again, really? And I realized I had stopped meditating and I'd stopped doing this breath work. And then getting back into it was like, this just doesn't feel right. I was uncomfortable. Like, I'm trying to meditate, but it doesn't feel the same. It feels like I don't understand what's going on. And my friend was like flippantly, like, it wasn't like a big like aha thing. It was like, just take a few minutes to breathe. And I was like, okay. And I had gotten myself a breath work book, like just like a little, like, it's called Breathe, I think. Like, it's not a big deal. And it just really just summarizes some different breathing exercises and stuff like that. It's nothing like groundbreaking. And then so I
Mhm.
was kind of reading through it and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And one of the things it talks
Mhm.
about is that some of the most amazing spiritual leaders, like Gandhi and like various popes and like even like some of the more zealous Christian leaders and like things like that, they all had a breathing practice before they would pray. They would take 10 or 15 minutes just to breathe. And then they would start their meditations or their prayer or whatever, all this, because and I find that fascinating because it clears everything out. It connects you to yourself. And we can go into what that means to me too if you want me to, but like, it's a calming. And I said this before, it is an awareness. And so what does that mean? When I talk in my podcast and when I talk to clients about breath work, I don't want you to worry about anything. And this is where it comes down to step by step and just keep it simple.
Mhm.
Is that, like, sure, plant your feet, close your eyes, blah, 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 if you can. If you can't fit this in for the day and you're driving, don't close your eyes. But you can still you can breathe at a stoplight. You can breathe like on the toilet. Like, you've got 3 minutes in there. Take some breaths, you know?
Yeah.
So I want you to be able to make this easy for you. I also am very passionate about you deserve 3 minutes in the morning to yourself, period. But I understand that stuff happens. So, like, sometimes it doesn't feel possible. But by doing that, what it does, like, I literally just want you to take a breath and feel, where's the air hitting your face? Where's the air, and where can you feel the air as you inhale? Can you feel it in your nostrils? Can you feel it in the back of your throat? Can you feel it going down your throat? Can you feel it in your lungs? And so, like, What parts of your body are moving? Sometimes people really breathe through their diaphragm in their tummy. Sometimes it's just their lungs. Sometimes people's shoulders go up and down. So nothing's right or wrong. There's no judgment in any of this. It's literally just, what's going on with me? What part of my body is moving? How does how do my thighs feel on my seat? Can I feel the gravity pulling down? Like, and it's silly little things about that, but here's the thing. You take that with you. So now all of a sudden that awareness that you've practiced for 3 minutes follows you through your day. And so now as you build that practice, all of a sudden you're going to be aware of more beauty around you. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that tree has been on my block since I've lived here and I've never noticed it before. And it is the most magnificent tree I've ever seen. And then somebody's behavior towards you, you're going to be like, that's interesting. I've never noticed that they do that to me. You know what I mean? Or that I've allowed them to treat me this way. I mean, that's after a while, you start to pay attention to how you talk to yourself and all these things. And it's literally just about practicing a breath practice of paying attention to what's happening to your body when you're breathing. That grows. You take that with you. It grows and grows and grows. And now you're more aware of the choices you're making. You're like, and so that can go into your nutrition. It can go into your fitness. It can go into, and this is where I kind of get off on my thing. Obviously, it can go into your spirituality practices. It can go into your feelings about your sexuality. It can go into your feelings about your finances, the choices you make about your finances. Like all of a sudden, awareness is so much. I actually just told my mom, we went and got coffee together, and I was like, I think I'm going to start calling myself an awareness coach. And she's like, I've never heard that before. I was like, right, but that's the crux of what I teach. I use breath work so that people become aware. I encourage people, I work with people to change their habits, to make healthier choices, and that comes from awareness. I want you to be aware of what you're doing. There is no judgment. There's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad.
Yeah.
You decided to eat an entire cake? Fantastic. It's done, so we can let it go, but let's talk about it.
I went to the National Opioid RX Conference, and what struck me more so this year than any other year is they had government presenters and researchers doing seminars. There were hundreds of seminars you could pick from. Of course, I picked the ones that I like, and this one was all about mindfulness. And there's a whole department in the government right now doing research, which we know that it works, right?
Right.
They're finally doing research about these mindfulness techniques to help people with cravings and addiction. The exercise that we did was they handed out chocolate kisses to everybody in the audience, and they said, okay, I want you to just hold it right now. And then we held it, and then we touched the outside. How does it feel? Then we smelled the chocolate. And then they did this talking thing with us about, now you have two choices. You know, you can eat the chocolate, but not yet. I want you to think this through. You can eat the chocolate. You can feel how it tastes in your throat. You can get that few seconds of goodness. Or you can set the chocolate aside and maybe decide to have it later, or maybe not, because you realize that you don't really want the chocolate right now. You're not really looking forward to the extra calories. And, you know, they went through this whole litany of events. And when I first got that piece of chocolate in my hand, I'm like, oh, yum, I can't wait to eat this. And by the time the exercise was over, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's melty, it's squishy. I don't want it right now. Maybe later. It just fits perfectly with what you're saying. And there's
Absolutely
a litany of research going towards this mindfulness right now.
It's crazy because
in
I feel
everything that we do.
Totally. Everything. And that's what I mean. But it all starts with this awareness, because you're not going to get curious. That's what I was going to say is I love talking about getting curious, because curiosity, again, we're not coming from a place of judgment. It's not, why would you do that? It's like, why did I do that? Do I really believe that? Do I really want this? Like, how many rom-coms have you seen? I say this all the time. How many rom-coms have you seen where a woman gets broken up with and she doesn't go eat a pint of ice cream? It's what we're trained to do. When we're sad or depressed, we go and eat a pint of ice cream. For women, when we're menstruating, we have chocolate, period, always. Since when and why? Who told you that you had to do that? Do you really want chocolate, or is it just what you think you're supposed to do? Do you
Mhm.
really believe the things that have been passed down to you through your family, or is it what your mom believed and what you were trained to do? Take a step back and get curious. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what is it for you? But
Mhm.
unless you have that awareness to get curious about something,
Mhm.
we just that's what habits are. It's just rote. It's just I'm sad, ice cream. You know what I mean? I have so many friends who they're like, do not talk to me until I have coffee in the morning. Why? Is that real? Or is that what we're told to believe coffee does for us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because let's
Mhm.
be honest, that's not what coffee does for us. That's a choice you're
Right.
making. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that's cool.
Right.
That's your choice. If you are that reliant on getting in a good mood, waiting on a cup of coffee, I would question that because you're giving that coffee your power. And for
Oh, I
me,
love that. Yes, I use that phrase all the time.
yeah,
When I talk about people that are in relationships, which in my work I do, offer some counsel to people, they'll talk about this significant other, this and this and this. And I'm like, "Oh, wait, stop. Why? Why are you giving them your power?
yeah.
Because that's exactly what you're doing."
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you, Don. I feel like the idea that nobody can make me mad is a really hard pill to swallow. That was a really, really big one. And it took me quite a few weeks to just be comfortable with the idea of it, let alone like figure out how to put into practice not to allow someone to make me mad. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they made
Mhm.
me so mad, or you're making me feel this way, or you're making me. Anytime I allow myself to be angry at somebody's behavior, I'm literally giving them my power and sitting in that anger instead of
Mhm.
holding on to my power and saying, huh, I'm sure reacting to what this person's saying. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And usually the first question I ask myself is there anything they're talking about within my control? Or in other words, is this even about me? 9 times out of 10, it's not. Or if it is, then it's like, okay, this is about me. Is it true? Or is this about them? Are they fabricating this because of
Mhm.
something else that's going on? It is true. Okay, cool. Do I want to change that? This is okay, they're right. This has been my behavior. But for me, especially as I've evolved, setting up boundaries or whatever, having more respect for myself and expecting that in return, do I want to change that? No, this is who I am now. So, okay,
Mhm.
cool. This conversation no longer has anything to do with me because I'm not going to change what you're asking me to change. Or, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to work on that. And you've just dissolved a giant argument. When you have that awareness in an argument or having responded from or getting an email, something that is like where you're reacting or what we would normally say of making me feel a certain way, I
Mhm.
can totally give you my power and stew in that, whatever that emotion is. Or I can hang on to my power and analyze with no judgment what's going on, what's
Right.
really happening here.
It's interesting you brought up boundaries because I did take a boundaries course because it's something that I had struggled with for a really long time. Healthy boundaries.
Yeah,
No means no. The ability to say no. Recently, what's come to mind is the fact that as a caregiver, we often want to help people.
yeah,
We want to we want to make them better. Or
fix.
if we see somebody that's mistreating another person, we want to step in and
Right,
say, no, 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 no. And what was brought to my attention is that's not right. And they're like, well, what? Should I just turn a blind eye? Should I pretend like it's not happening? Not step in and help someone? Blah, blah,
right,
blah. When you think about momentum, okay, when somebody's in a momentum force going forward, you are not going to stop that momentum by
right.
intervening.
No.
You're going to make the momentum greater. And so it goes back to take a step back
Mhm.
and allow the person that's in the situation to exert their own power, take
Absolutely.
their own power back, and then maybe at a later point in time, when the time is right, you can assert a conversation with either of the people,
Hmm.
offer some help or
Right.
suggestion
Guidance.
or little tip.
Hmm.
But in the heat of the moment, a lot of people are taught. to intervene. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're taught that as a society. You stick up for a woman that's being battered. You do this. And to a certain extent, yes, sometimes you
Right.
have to intervene, but you're not going to change the momentum.
Familiarity is so much more comfortable. And so we go back to what we know. And I think that it's important to remember everybody is the own hero of their own story. And so it is not my job to fix or to make better. It is absolutely an individual's job to do that. Now, I can give you that guidance and suggestion and cheer you the F on while we move forward. But
Mhm.
you got to do the work. I can't do it for you, And so that's a big thing. But the other thing is this idea of fixing. If I believe, and I do, that everything happens as it should, that I'm right where I need to be, then that means I'm not broken. That means I don't need fixing. And that's where it is a huge passion of mine for people to love themselves where they are, right here in
My
this moment.
gosh, you're reading my mind.
You don't need fixing. You don't.
Yeah.
Now, do you want change? Are you uncomfortable with where you are? Do you feel trapped or stuck or any of those things? Then let's talk about it. I
Mhm.
love it when people tell me that they feel stuck because there's no such thing. Because I literally feel like the words we use, I mean, if thoughts have power, imagine how much stronger that power has when we speak
It's
it.
one of the things I teach.
Yeah.
Words have
And
power.
oh my gosh. And so when we use words, what do they actually mean? We use the word hard all of the time. Oh, that's hard. No, it's not. You just don't want to do it, or you're afraid to do it, or it's new. Is it hard? No. Let's take some of the responsibility off of these words that we've given them. I realized
Yeah.
the other day I've avoided using the word easy for the last 3 years in my coaching because it is, I'll say it's not, I'm not going to tell anybody something's easy, but I'm going to tell them that it's simple when you start small and you do it step by step. But the other day I was working on something, there's this easiness, and I was like, no, I don't like using the word easy. And I was like, no, but what does the word easy mean? It means doing something with ease. And that is true. You can have a sense of ease and a sense of calm. That's very different than saying something's easy. Let's talk about getting stuck. Are you stuck? What is it that you want? Well, I have a friend who is in a difficult situation and she's going to leave that situation, but she can't for a few months because of various circumstances, right? And I'm like, great. So in that way, you do feel stuck. And I get that because you have to stay where you are for this time, whether that's a job or whatever that is. And so, okay, but you know that once these three parts of the situation are resolved, that you can go. What can you do to prepare for that leaving? Let's pack up your desk. Let's start slowly taking things apart. Let's start slowly organizing your emails. Let's start slowly work 5 minutes in a day. If you are slowly working towards that solution, even though it can't resolve right now, you no longer feel stuck. You no longer feel trapped. You actually can be really excited because you're making steps, you're making movements towards the end result. Is that true? Get curious. Do you remember the never ending story? There's this swamp of despair, and the kid's leading his horse through it, and the horse can't handle it anymore. He just dies in the swamp. You get stuck. And that is what those emotions and those things do. Judgment,
Mhm.
guilt, there's no action out of guilt. So let's let
Right.
that guilt go. Acknowledge that something happened. It's done. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So why focus on it? Let's just move forward.
Right.
What can we do to move forward?
There's a difference, and this is so key to what you're saying. There's a difference between saying, "I'm depressed," or saying, "I'm aware that I'm feeling sad,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay," because feelings aren't facts.
Mm-hmm.
They're just feelings
Mm-hmm.
that don't have to control us or manipulate us or take us to a place that we don't wanna be. This week, when I, started getting this cold, I'm like, "Well, I'm aware that my throat is a little scratchy today." Much different than saying, "I am so sick."
Right. I believe so strongly that the words I am are the two most powerful words in the English language because you say
Mhm.
I am tired or for I am sick and your body goes
Mhm.
cool and matches you
Yeah.
for it. I'm going to go a step further if it's okay, and this might feel a little
Yeah,
woo, but like we attach our feelings and emotions to our thoughts. And just because you think something doesn't make it true. So we
right.
have a thought and we look at that thought and then we attach an emotion to it, and now it's a big deal. And
Mhm.
so I would go one step further and say not only don't emotions control us, but we control them. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that because, like, you're like, I don't know why I feel blah, blah, blah.
Just by changing the way I speak about things
Yes.
is huge. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if people out here listening will try that simple
Yeah.
technique and say, I am aware that I'm feeling this way instead
Yes.
of I am this,
Yeah.
it's a game changer.
It
Then
is.
you can dive
Yeah.
deeper into the nuts and bolts like you're talking
Right.
about.
Right. Well, and I want to say too that, like, it's super easy for us to say, hey, pay attention to how you talk to yourself, when that is a natural thing. Everybody does it. So I want to encourage you, those of you who haven't started this before or have never done this before, know that I've been working on this for going on 4 years. So why would I expect to be perfect at it after 3 years? You know,
Yeah.
so it's like putting your hands flat on your lap. I said this the other day, and like trying to tell yourself to move your arm. Like, I'm telling my fingers to lift, like I'm concentrating on it. It doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You just do that because it's natural, not because you're telling yourself to lift up your arm. And so that's where it's a practice. And that's where
Yeah.
having this awareness starts with a practice. And for me, that practice is 3 minutes of breathing in the morning, 3 to 10 minutes of just get up a
Mhm.
little bit early, sit your butt on the couch, and just take some deep breaths. Just get that connection. That is awareness that you will grow as that practice expands. Trust me, but start small
Yeah. Yeah.
and give yourself a heck of a lot of grace. You have how many years of practice beating up on yourself?
With my own personal healing, art was a huge pathway.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I loved creating.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I loved drawing and painting, and I had set it aside on a shelf for years and years and years. But it wasn't until I was forced by my sister to sit down and start painting something
Mm-hmm.
that I experienced that sense of calm and
Mm-hmm.
ease, and
Mm-hmm.
my mind had gone to a different place, a
Yeah.
different pathway
Yeah.
of peace and tranquility, and that was like a turning point for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, "This is just incredible. I'm gonna pursue this."
Yeah.
And, that's what I say to people. You don't have to be like, you've studied this, you know what you don't have to be a mastermind at these
Right.
techniques, creativity, music, the breath work. You just have to be open to receive.
Yes. Try
Be
something.
open to receive and it'll come to you
Yeah.
for sure.
What if it works?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't? What, like, you're out three
Yeah.
minutes?
Yeah.
What if it doesn't work? Okay, cool. Let's try
Yeah.
something new. And I just want to point out, I love that you brought this up because your painting is your doorway to your
Mhm.
complete wellness. My
Mhm.
breathing is my doorway to my complete wellness, to my awareness, to that sense of center. So, what works for one
Mhm.
person doesn't always work for the other, which is why I strongly believe there's no such thing as right or wrong. Well, I have to
Yeah.
do this right. No, you don't, because what's right for me might not be right for you. Find that sense of calm and ease for you. Try these different things.
Yeah. That's what I
Um,
was going to say.
yeah.
Just because you think you're not an artist or you think you don't do breath work, I like trying all modalities
Yes.
because although I have specific ones that I am gravitated toward,
Hmm.
I feel like I have benefited from all modalities. So
Totally.
why not try them?
Well, and that's the thing. That's why football players take ballet lessons. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, it's not because they want to be ballerinas. It's because what they're doing supports the thing that they want to focus on.
Yeah.
My breath work is not my career. My breath work
Mhm.
is supporting me in ways that I can't even express to you. It's about connecting to my inner being, connecting to what I call source energy, fill in the blanks, universe, God, whatever works for you. Not to
Yeah.
mention enlightenment and growth, all of these things that breath work has been proven to do. I just want you to have more awareness. Find your sense of
Yeah.
play. What brings a smile to your face? My friend Shannon does this thing. She's a coach as well. And she has her clients write a list of 5 to 10 things that bring you joy, that just instantly make you smile. For me, one of those things on, put a favorite song on the radio or on your television, and I dance my little butt off and I laugh at myself because I'm literally making a fool of myself if anyone was around. And it's fun and I'm done and
Mhm.
I feel lighter. I have a giant smile on my face and I'm ready to go. Write a list. And then when you're feeling that way, you don't have to think of what to do. You have a list and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go make myself a pot of coffee because that makes me smile. Or I'm going to go jump in the bath with my lavender
Mhm.
salts, or I'm going to light my favorite candle.
We
It's
talked
finding
about
those moments.
rituals and how
Mm-hmm.
important they are, and I'm reading this book right now about the power of business, and he talks about entrepreneurs that have rituals that they follow every single day are the most successful entrepreneurs. And he talked about getting up early and going to the gym and listening to things in your earpods while you're
Mm-hmm.
working out that feed your mind. You're, t-
Mm-hmm.
you're doubling your efforts. Get into a habit of doing these, and
Yeah.
that's how it was with my meditation.
Right.
If I don't make it a habit, a ritual
Yeah.
that I do every day, I tend to forget doing it.
Yeah.
And then another book that I read frequently in the recovery community talks about your intuitive powers. At first, you just try to tap into your intuitive powers and you do certain things and you ask for guidance and you
Mm-hmm.
open yourself up to the universe. And then, after you do this repeatedly, day after day after day, these intuitive powers that we're taught, don't listen to that little voice in your head, become your guiding force, and
Absolutely.
you get hit with these intuitive thoughts
Mm-hmm.
all the time. They come to me all the time. When we were talking today, it was like the things you were saying are the things that I've said.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
That is the power of intuition. Like there's
Absolutely.
absolutely no mistake
Yeah.
that you are sitting in this chair talking to me
Yeah.
right here and
Right
now.
now. And
I'm
that's
just so excited about it. I can't.
but see then and see that's the thing is that when you catch it and you're there and you're like and it brings you this excitement and it's like this is so cool and you can ride that wave because you know you're in alignment because this is the proof because it feels so good and that's the proof. And so when you're like I don't know if that's the right way or if that's the right again quote unquote using that word if this is the
Yeah.
right path or the right whatever pay attention to how it feels. When it
Yeah.
feels good you know it's the right thing. And again,
Right.
there's no right or wrong. You're right where you need to be. You'll feel it. And so, but again, you have to become aware of those things. So I just want to take it back. Connecting to your intuition is a practice. Don't
It
expect to
is.
be like, boom, into it. You've got to do it. You've got to
Exactly.
build it. You've got to whatever. And you're
You have to have
very
that ritual.
absolutely. It's a practice. And I feel very strongly that everything in life is a practice. It's a meditation practice. It's a yoga practice. Everything is called practice. So try to release the idea that you have to go into it and be perfect. Kathy Heller said the other day, and I was so grateful for it because it allows me to vocalize what I already knew, you know? And she said, like, if your mind is wandering, good. Because that means your brain is functioning the way it's supposed to. Your brain is designed to think. And so if it's thinking, it's working. Hooray. Let's celebrate that instead of hating ourselves for not being able to still our mind. And now we can be
Mhm.
aware of that and be like, cool. Thanks for working. I'm going to breathe now. This is my time. Let's focus on the
Yeah.
breath. Coming from our practices from a state of learning and a state of we're going to move forward in a different way. That's
Sorry.
great. I'm really glad that that person is on my mind. I love you. I'm sending you love, but this is my time. And so I just
Mhm.
want to remind everybody that it's practice. Find the play, find the things that make you smile, find what feels good
Yeah.
and follow that. And even in like going to the gym, personally, I struggle to listen to like motivational things or even books while I'm working out because my attention is pulled in two different places. I want to pay attention to what's saying and I want to also work, enjoy my workout and make sure that that's accurate and that I'm not going to hurt myself and all those things. So I want to encourage people that you don't always have to be doing two things at once. You are allowed to take time for yourself as well. And I believe that that's something to integrate into your morning ritual. We're such a culture of go 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 do. I have to do this and I have to work on this and I have to do and even our to-do list it's all about
Mhm.
doing. And I think
Yeah.
there's a point where it's like let that go and kind of just allow things to be. Take the time for yourself. And as women especially because we're taking care of everybody else. Whew, give yourself 3 minutes to breathe in the morning.
I really feel like you've made me see why There's so many different meditative practices, and the one that I gravitate toward is the one of stillness, setting my alarm for 15 minutes, turning on a fan, just focusing on the hum
Mm-hmm.
of the fan
Mm-hmm.
for 15 minutes
Yeah.
because it allows me to be still because I am a go, go, go person.
Yeah.
I
No, I
am
know you are.
doing 50 million things at once. And
Yeah.
I think it was this conversation that I couldn't figure out, why doesn't that work for everybody?
Right.
Why am I so drawn to that type of meditation? And now I
Yeah.
know why.
Yeah. Well, and I want to also just touch on, because people have such resistance to meditation. And I get it, because it feels like monumental. And again, because we're in this go, go, go society. But also, I think there's, like, for me, I was resistant to meditation because I grew up in a very strict religious background. And there was something like new age and woo woo and kind of almost evil to it. Obviously, that's not the case. I just want to remind you that even in meditation, you don't have to do anything. And like, we talk about like pushing this out of your mind and pushing this out of your mind and making sure you're focused on, whoa, 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 whoa. Just allow what happens to happen. Just get to a place where you can allow and understand that your thoughts are going to wander. Fantastic. You're human.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, and you're gonna get sidetracked, and you're gonna go off, but the more you do it, the more you're going to be aware of the fact that that's happening. And you're going to be like, whoa,
Yes.
that's happening again. I'm going to pull this back. One of the women that I listen to in her meditation, I actually love her. And she often talks about our thoughts being like on a river, and you're sitting on the riverbank, and you can pick up that thought, like those little, I imagine like those little candelabra bags that like float down a river, and you can
Mm.
pick it up and you can attach to it. You can attach emotion to it, and now it's bigger. You can hold on to it and really focus on it, or you can just watch it go by. You can acknowledge the thought, and there it goes on the river. But that takes practice. And so we have to allow ourselves to be human and allow ourselves to be. And I think we hold on so tight to the reins because we have to be in control. Well, you can't control a horse if you're holding on that tight to the reins. Like, if you hold too tight to the reins, the horse doesn't know what you want it to do. If you let go
Right.
of the reins, obviously you're completely out of control. But if you allow the reins to sit in your hand, that's when you just sit in an almost open hand.
Mhm.
That's when you're most in control. When you just allow things to be. That's a big lesson. It has been a big lesson to me, especially because we're so used to just let it go. Let it go. Let that thought go. Let that person go. I'm not ready to let him go, but I'm going to let
Right.
him be who he is, and I'm going to let me be who I am, and I'm going to let our relationship be what it is.
It's more about self-control, right?
Mhm. All
Controlling
of
your
this,
own emotions, your thoughts,
because that's
everything,
all
because
you have control
that's
of.
all we have
Yeah.
control. Right.
And so then that comes down to self-love and
Right.
self-acceptance. And
Right.
and that's where everything starts.
Radical Self-Love is the book that I'm
Totally.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Bestseller.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's
I'll be
just
honest with
so
you,
important.
I realized that in my darkest moment, all I did was work. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't hate myself. I absolutely did not love myself at all. But I was so uncomfortable being with myself because I was so separated from myself. And so that's why I didn't want to be home. That's why I was always at work,
Mhm.
because it meant I could avoid myself. And when I started having to be home, really going in and like trying to figure out who this person is, and this actually comes back around to boundaries, little self-promotion. There was an amazing conversation I had with a woman named Allison McIntosh, and she had this interesting perspective about boundaries that I'd never thought of before. Boundaries are a perimeter that you set up around a space, right? It's a gate, it's a fence, whatever, around. But if what you're putting that perimeter around isn't self-sufficient, isn't solid, those boundaries just cave right in. It's like putting an elastic band around something that's going to collapse. You
Right.
have to make sure that you are solid with yourself, that you know who you are, that you understand who and what you want. And like the more inner work, the more in touch with yourself you are, the more the boundaries just exist. You don't have to put anything up. They're just
Mhm.
there. This is how I respect myself, and that's what I'm now emitting to everyone else. So I'm giving them an example of this is how I deserve to be treated because it's how I treat myself.
I don't think what you're saying is don't put up boundaries if
Mm-mm.
you don't have it all together. I think if you want to focus on one particular thing, just focus on that one particular thing and then set your boundary around that, because
Absolutely.
we don't all have it. We don't have it all together,
No,
and we're never going to be perfect, but boundaries are so important, and
absolutely.
they will collapse if you're not laser focused on the one thing that you want to set the boundary around.
Right, right. No, I'm absolutely in no way saying don't set up boundaries. I'm saying the boundaries that I feel like the boundaries that are most important are the ones that we set for ourselves.
Yes.
Like even you said earlier, like no means no. Well, if we're telling somebody no and then we're like, oh, okay, and we let them get away with it, we did that. That
Yeah.
wasn't them crossing our
Yeah.
boundaries. It was us like
Mhm.
literally opening the gate for them to come on in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's more
And
what I
I've
mean.
done that.
Yeah,
I have
who
done it for
hasn't? Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Especially as women, we do that all the time, every
Mhm.
day. And so then knowing that and giving yourself that grace of like, this is a pattern, this is normal for me, okay, I'm gonna work on it, and maybe you don't open that gate quite as readily next time. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Let's remember that even when we're talking about awareness, if you react and you send back a scathing email and then you're like, oh wow, I really should have taken a breath before I did that, and I reacted and didn't respond, that's huge. You recognized it. Yeah, it's done,
Mhm.
okay, fine, whatever, but like you understand that next time you can do it different. Notice I didn't say better. You can do it
Right.
differently next time. And then
Right.
next time you might be more aware of it a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier, but that's the practice.
And it's
So,
all about trial. You can try, try, try. What doesn't work, doesn't work, doesn't work. And then
right,
eventually you're going to find the
right.
way. And then you keep practicing that way over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I have gotten so much out of this conversation.
Yay, me too.
I almost, I thought about canceling because I am aware that I have a little bit of a cough,
I'm really glad you didn't.
but it's been so inspirational for me. I'd like to, do you have an offer or something? When you were talking, I thought you should make a little ebook about like little breath practices. I mean,
Yeah,
I would get it,
I
but I
actually just
know that
recorded a
people,
video of wake up and breathe is what I'm calling it,
yeah,
but it's literally what I do every morning, my seven
yeah.
minute practice every morning. So I'm
Okay.
putting that
So
together. So I'll give it to you to
perfect.
share. Yeah.
And then where can people listen to you?
I'm on any of your podcast platforms. It's Life After
Okay.
Breath, and then I just built my YouTube channel, so that's coming soon, and it hasn't quite started yet,
Yay.
but we're working on it.
Yes.
So there's that, and
Awesome.
then I'm on Instagram under Julia Christine Health. And then the podcast has a Facebook community that I'm really excited about. I'm doing weekly lives where we'll discuss some of the things we're talking about in the podcast. I'm going to have special guests. We're going to do Q&As, kind of like some group coaching kind of stuff on that platform. So that's the Life After Breath community, podcast community on Facebook.
Great.
So
Thank you so much for joining me. I
absolutely.
know
Thank
this was
you.
a little bit longer than my normal podcast, but
I talk a
we
lot.
had so much content. We
Good.
had so much content to talk about that
Good.
I just felt like we needed to keep going. So I
Awesome.
appreciate you
Thank you
being
so
here.
much.
Julia is just a ray of Soulshine, isn't she? Please take a minute, 3 minutes every morning to listen to her Life After Breath podcast, available on all platforms. And as always, I invite you to really rev up your own healing process. You can start by downloading the 11 free affirmation journal that you can start your journaling practice. And if you really want to dive deep into journaling, you can join the Write It Real experiment. I will have a link in the notes with Jessica Hughes about manifesting your future and writing your future. Don't forget, the Ripple experiment is live. This is an experiment that I am conducting to spread positivity, joy, art throughout the world. And if you're an entrepreneur, you definitely want to join. Thanks for joining me today on the Catch Some Soulshine podcast. All right, see you next week.